This is Jane Low, and I'm at Black Hat Asia here in Singapore. And with me today, I'm very pleased and very privileged to have Francesco and Stanislav, who is going to be sharing with us the latest developments in critical infrastructure vulnerabilities, specifically relating to serial to IP converters. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having us, Jane, and hello, everyone.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yes, yeah. So, So serial to IP converters, right? So I think a lot of us are not too familiar with what this is. So let's use a sort of a real life case study. And you mentioned in your presentation the Ukraine power plants, as well as the Polish energy disruption. So can you tell us what are serial to IP converters and what happened in those two incidents?
Right, so this is exactly the crux of the problem that you mentioned. Not many people know about them, and this includes also the asset owners and people who use them, because it's a kind of set and forget device, which normally just translates serial data from serial devices to TCP/IP. That enables remote monitoring, data collection, and all these kind of things, and people just set it, and they know it's there, or they don't, and it's quietly running somewhere. And people don't even bother to change passwords, and of course, there are critical vulnerabilities in these devices. The problem is that the attackers are very much aware of these devices, and they can exploit default passwords or critical vulnerabilities to cause the impact is called denial of service, when basically you crash this device and you essentially cut off communication with all the serial equipment like humidity sensors or field sensors or any other physical stuff. So basically it can cause blackouts on power stations or even floods on water treatment stations. And this is what the attackers essentially tried to do in Ukraine, where they sent a malicious email to an email address of somebody who worked at the power station, if I remember correctly. And from there, they basically used malware to target several kind of devices, including specifically serial to IP converters. So the problem is that the attackers know these devices very well, but the asset owners don't. And that's what we try to rectify with our talk today.
Right, okay. So the Ukraine disruption happened in 2015.
Yes.
And more recently, you also highlighted that with the Polish incident that was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, December last year. So if you look at two of them, they're very similar when it comes to the target devices that the attackers wanted to reach.
So you say that the asset owners don't know this very well. So I guess given the fact that the two incidents, there's similarities, so the lessons have not been learned from the 2015 incident.
Yes, this is conclusion that we make. Of course, we cannot speak for all the asset owners, but one cannot help but notice.
Right, okay. So you mentioned that these devices are converting serial data into IP data. So they are attached to legacy devices or old devices?
Usually all devices. I mean, because these devices are built on purpose to connect legacy devices that only have a serial port to internet or to a digital network. So this is mainly old or legacy devices.
Can we assume that serial to IP converters, they are not very sophisticated then?
The initial assumption we had that indeed these devices must be very simple, because the only purpose is to translate one kind of data transfer protocol into the other, but what we learned actually, it's quite the opposite. So they are complex Linux machines with lots of open source components, so the attack surface is quite big. They also use management protocols. For example, in a building or a production floor, you may have lots of serial devices which require several points of connections to serial to IP converters. There could be even multiple production floors. So you cannot really configure these devices all at once, and if something breaks, it's also a mess. And that requires you to have some kind of protocol that centralizes the management of these things. And that's actually an additional risk that we also highlighted in our presentation.
Right. So, and in your presentation, you provided a simulation of that's attached to temperature sensors, right? For data center, if I get it right?
Exactly, data center, temperature sensors.
with some warehouse attached to it. It's a hypothetical one, but I guess some of it may be in the real world.
Right. Yeah. So that's one example of where they could be sitting. So I think in your report, you also mentioned they could be found in hospitals as well.
Yeah, exactly. As we already mentioned, they can be found in many critical sectors, so healthcare, so hospital.
Yeah, some of
energy,
these
utilities.
devices are using serial for management or firmware updates, so the application is quite limited. Some of them are designed to send patient data like heart rate and other things through the serial protocol. And for a small hospital, it's much easier to buy a serial to IP converter to keep using the same device rather than buy a brand new device that supports TCP/IP. So that's basically the premise that is true not only for the hospital but also for the critical infrastructure. Why would you replace a perfectly functioning hardware that is inexpensive, does what it has to do? So why would you spend all the money?
Yes, I got a question about the cost benefit is much cheaper to buy a converter. But before we go into that, right? So I want to ask you about, you found 23 vulnerabilities across 2 vendors. Tell us about the top 2 sort of common, classes of vulnerabilities.
Yeah, the common classes, unfortunately, we can say are remote code execution is the category via, for example, as common injection or buffer overflows. This was quite common, especially because these issues are critical, indeed allowed us to take over the devices. Then other common issues that we found and we frequently find in our research is, for example, weak broken access control. So weak access control, that means, for example, that can lead to authentication bypass. And we also found issues in firmware integrity checks that can lead to firmware tampering, which is really, really critical. Denial of service, and also sensitive information disclosure, because usually vendors implement custom encryption protocols that are weak.
I guess one question that many people would have is that, these are, some of them are publicly exposed, but some of them are embedded in the organization infrastructure, right? And I guess in most circumstances, they are embedded in an internal organization rather than publicly exposed. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, so you're wondering what will attackers do in this case. I think it's a little bit naive to think that if the device is not exposed, it poses less risk, because nowadays there is a lot of news from our research, from other people around the world who find daily issues in firewalls and other edge devices. So basically, and if you look at the state of the disclosure and the state of patching now, it's a huge mess. So patches are lagging behind. And my point being that they don't necessarily have to use vulnerabilities exclusively in serial to IP converters to eventually reach them. So one possibility would be target the vulnerable edge device. The other one, which was used in Ukraine and in Poland, I believe, is just a phishing email that will do the job. And the other possibility that we also discussed, if you can tamper with the firmware and you have enough resources and the target is critical enough, you can actually do a supply chain attack where you already ship devices with the tampered firmware that only waits for some kind of signal to activate. So there are many possibilities in this kind of cases.
Right. I think, zero to IP devices vulnerabilities is not the only one, I guess, with vulnerable firmware. In your 2026 report, the top 2 newest devices, one of which is workstations, the other one is, of course, zero to IP devices. Is that because we are deploying more, or is that because we are finding more vulnerabilities?
It's really difficult to say. Would you like to?
I think that, it's also because the fact that they sit again between a digital network and physical processes. So actually a not sophisticated vulnerability can lead to severe damage on the physical world. The problem is that these devices are quite weak from the security standpoint. Yeah. So this combination increase the risks.
The way we evaluate risk is their overall exposure, criticality, and the historical vulnerabilities and past incidents that basically demonstrated that these are of interest for the attacker. So it's, we have multiple variables which don't necessarily give you the answer as to why, but it at least lets you know that you should pay attention to these kind of devices now.
Yep.
So that's how we try to measure the risk.
Right. So what is the message that you want the audience to take away in, become more aware of this challenge, right? But how to overcome this challenge?
Would you like to start?
Yeah, I mean, there are actually many possibilities. There are, again, a lot of security bugs on these devices, and these devices are similar actually to network devices, so they are easy to exploit with the same techniques, but the impact is more severe. But asset owners, for example, they should improve their visibility on these kind of devices. They should make an inventory with all these devices, because we have already mentioned these devices are forgotten in the network with the default credentials. And these networks are also usually poorly segmented. So all these are factors that can allow attackers to compromise these devices.
We will always keep finding vulnerabilities, we and other researchers, of course, but it's important indeed to start with the asset inventory, visibility for each asset owner. They have to know what exactly they have on their networks, how to react in case reports with critical vulnerabilities drops, and they have to keep patching, of course. Whenever vendor releases new patch, that has to be applied immediately.
Right. Okay. So I think another favorite question when it comes to patching in the critical infrastructure world is, you are looking at device, the infrastructure downtime, right? So what have you seen that works quite well in terms of patching priorities and
We are
strategy?
actually on the other end of the spectrum. So we find bugs, we don't really patch them, but I think there should be some kind of fail-safe mechanism for, it's a responsibility of the asset owners to prepare for that, because if this device is quite easy to patch, but I appreciate there might be some downtimes if there is no device to replace it. But from at least the ones that we've seen, it's not going to bring any major downtime if you apply a patch, let's say nightly, maybe 5 to 10 minutes if everything goes well. So it should not be a big of concern. I think the biggest concern is still visibility and knowing that you actually have to patch.
Okay, so talking about visibility and a lot of other devices that have been forgotten. So, if we have this talk 12 months from now, where do you foresee is the next frontier in terms of forgotten devices?
I think, I'm just speculating, but for example, protocol converters or protocol gateways for industrial protocols, I don't know, for Modbus to Profinet, these kind of devices. So all these small devices used to convert, and also maybe the data gateways. So all these devices are connected again to legacy equipment in order to collect also data and transform it to different protocols, digital protocols, modern protocols in general. So this is not specific to serial converter, can be any kind of converter.
Yeah, so basically it comes not to the old devices, but to the new features for these old devices. We talked about the management protocol. In fact, we have new research coming about zero-touch provisioning protocols for network devices. So basically, it's something that allows you onboard devices to your network using cloud or a local point with some management capabilities, basically. And this is relatively new, so vendors start to implement these things. We also saw an example even with serial to IP converters. And this is usually done in a way that vendors reinvent their own protocols for this kind of thing, their own encryption schemes. So if a protocol is designed to convert to manage devices remotely, so the attackers can do the same as well if they find vulnerabilities in the protocol. And I think that would be the next area of the risks I would like to highlight. Not the devices itself, but maybe new capabilities added to some of the devices that we are used today, but still we don't understand the risks of these new capabilities.
Well, I think, I guess there's a treasure trove of interesting stuff for the attackers to explore. And then it's always going to be a cat and mouse game for the cyber defenders. So thank you so much for your time today to talk to us so very briefly on serial to IP converters and the vulnerabilities and the effects on critical infrastructure.
Thank you very much for these important questions.
Thanks to you. It was a pleasure.